I was recently asked how to store pastel paintings. Hi, I'm Gail Sibley, and in this video I'm going to show you how I store my unframed and unmatted pastels, sort of the raw version. So let's go have a look. All right, so you need to first of all gather your ingredients, the materials that you're going to use to cover your pastel. The first thing is that you need the paper that you're going to cover your pastel with. This could be glassine, which is comes in sheets of 24 by 36 or in rolls. It looks very much like tracing paper. It's this is great because there is no static buildup when it's covering your pastel. There's also an acid-free tissue paper that's available. I don't know why this is folded. It usually just comes in a nice sheet. It is less expensive than the glassine, but the problem is that when you have your pastel all wrapped up in it, you can't really see what the pastel is, and I find that quite frustrating. So I am now using all the time glassine instead, because there you can see the image. If you use acid-free tissue, I would advise putting a label on it, because otherwise it can be totally frustrating. As you can tell, I've been there, and now, like I say, I'm just using the glassine. You need some scissors to cut the paper, the glassine, and I like to record on the back of my piece, or if it's mounted on foam core on the front. But I like to record the inventory number if it's got one, a title if it's got one, the media, the paper and the pastels that I've used, the date, if I've photographed it or not, and if I've fixed it or not. So sometimes some of these things don't get done before I put them into storage, and I just want to remember if I've done that or not. So I need a pencil. And then you need some tape. If you're taping the glassine to glassine, then masking tape's just fine. If you're taping the glassine to the back of the pastel, then I would advise using acid-free tape. This is linen tape that I bought from my framer many years ago, so it lasts a long time, and it's really great if you need to tape to the back of the pastel. So that's it. That's all we need to get going. Okay, so I have pre-cut the glassine just to make this a little faster. Not fully pre-cut it, but I just didn't want to deal with this big sheet. So I have a piece of glassine here. So what I want to do is I want to turn the paper over. Now at this point I would record on the back all the information I need, the date, title, inventory number. I know it's Wallace paper. And I used, for this one, Terry Ludwig pastels. So I want it, I want to be fairly generous with the covering of this. Actually, I could probably get two of these out of here. So I'm just going to cover this, or fold this. And then cut it. You can see there's a little pastel coming off there already. All right. So now I just lay this flat. I want to crease this really well. I don't want it slipping around once it's in there. So I want to make a nice crease all the way along. And it's just like wrapping a present, especially when you're doing this size. And then sometimes I'll just put something like that on there. And again, a really good crease. And at this point I can start taping. I'm using masking tape because I'm taping glassine to glassine. I'm not touching the piece at all. Okay. And that's it. Okay, so that's the small one done, and you can, you can do large pieces like that. Just make sure if it's if it's heavy sanded paper, or if you've got it mounted on an acid-free paper like foam core, a board like foam core, then you can actually tape to the board. That would be the case of, say, a painting like this, which is a bit larger. Let me just, I'll just use the tissue here. I'm not going to tape it down because it's got this crease. You don't want a crease across your painting, but you just do the same thing, and then cut it, of course, and then do that and tape it to itself if you can, or if you need to tape it a little bit to the board, then that would be fine just with masking tape. The thing about masking tape, or any tape, I think, is you have to be careful that it doesn't, it will pull, when you pull it away, it'll pull up some of the paper. So that's why it's nice to tape paper to paper, like the glassine or the acid-free tissue. If you tape it to itself, then that is always a better thing to do. If you're working on a non-sanded paper, like a much lighter paper like Canson, the Canson paper, then you would probably want to consider taping that down to an acid-free board like foam core, just with very small amounts on the corners, using acid-free tape. If you can make a little triangular envelope to slip the corners in, that's all the better. You can probably buy those at framers, but the main thing is to tape it to a firm, a rigid board that then you can cover with glassine. Now, when I go out on site, I will have my paper that I've got mounted on foam core. I will prepare a piece of glassine and take it already covered out on site with me, so that when I'm finished my painting, so I would have it like this, and then I would flip it back, work on the painting on the easel, and then when I leave, I've got my painting protected. I always take extra tape. Now you'll notice on this one that I haven't done a really great job of covering. This was really meant just for traveling, making sure I can cover it so it doesn't get smeared. But when I get home, or for longer storage, I will recut that and do the same thing I did on the small piece, with the glassing all the way around. And that protects the painting not only from smearing, but also it protects it from any moisture getting in there. And that's what, those are the two bugaboos, is smearing and moisture. Then I have a shelf that I just stack these on. So I just stack them one on top of the other like that. They're really light, so there's not a whole lot of weight being stacked onto the paintings. I might stack them maybe 6 high. I'm also concerned about if the paper goes all the way over. Let's find you an example like this one. So on this one, the tape is taped here, and if I just look at where this painting, if I put a painting on under it, so it would be stacked like, I'm not showing this very well, if it's stacked like this, then I don't want the taped piece that's underneath affecting this. So I have to be careful of how much is taped over. And also I may just put a very thin piece of cardboard in between, or another piece of foam core, just to make sure that they're fully separated. But then I'll stack them, like I say, about 6 high. I stack like size with like size. So I'll stack a bunch of these little guys together, my 9 by 12s together, my 18 by 24s together. So they're all stacked equally. And I think I've told you everything about how to store pastel paintings. At least this is how I do it. So that's our little pastel all wrapped up safe and sound. I hope this video gave you some ideas on how to store pastel paintings. If you found it helpful, I hope you'll share it and of course like it. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I will be writing a blog about this topic, so if you want to read further on it, then head on over to howtopastel.com. Thank you so much for being here with me.